right, everybody, welcome back. So today I am bringing you a topic that I swear to God, all of you write in all the fucking time, pestering me to start talking about. So here we are, everyone. I have brought on Dr. Anna Garrett. She is going to talk to us about perimenopause and menopause. And the reason why she's here is because she happens to be my doctor. I reached out to her, I don't know, a few months ago. I've been tired, just like I think just random symptoms. And I kind of had done everything that I thought I could do on my own and really wanted to just bring someone on my personal A team who could help me just get my shit together, see if I could get some more energy, feel a little bit more in balance and a little bit like my old self. Now, I'm not trying to snow myself that I'm going to be feeling like my 30s again, but I started noticing for me personally as an A-type personality, someone who has a lot of get up and go and can drag their sorry ass through life, kicking and screaming to get things done. I started having a real hard time with it. Like I started having where I needed days off. I would have to sometimes cancel some meetings and just start reprioritizing things. And I will tell all of you, I'm very glad that I'm the kind of person that when I know something's out of whack, I'm like so in tune with myself, I will pay attention to it. And then I will go to work on solving it. And then I like for all of you to hear what I said. When I really started noticing I couldn't do like I used to, the first thing I did was start cutting back some stuff without a lot of guilt and shame. Sometimes I felt a little bad about it, but not every time. Sometimes I was just like, this is what we got today, and we're going to have to roll with it. So I got recommended to Dr. Garrett through somebody else who's been on the podcast, Lisa Smith from The Peaceful Parent. She was interviewing me for her podcast, and she was like, I keep hearing you in the membership bitching and moaning about how tired you are. You've got to call her. I will recommend her 100%. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and give her a more formal introduction. But I just wanted all of you to know that the reason why she's here is because I wouldn't bring someone on the podcast that I didn't trust, that I didn't think could give us some good advice. And that's why she's here. All right. Tell us all about yourself, Dr. Garrett. And you'll be called, like, I don't even call you Anna. I don't think I call you anything when we talk. How would you like to be called? Dr. Anna?
Why don't you just call me Anna?
Okay. Well, and that's, my mama's name is Anna, so that's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, spelled just the same.
Oh yeah, I'm Dr. Anna on the internet, but I don't like it when people call me Dr. Garrett because it just sounds like.
Okay. Well, I will call you
friendly sort.
That will be super easy. Well, I don't like when people call me ma'am. I'm like, look, please. Are we already in that land?
But we're Southern, so we kind of have to just sort of roll with it.
Yes, we do. Well, tell me all about you.
So I am a doctor of pharmacy by training, and I have been for more years than I did the math on that not too long ago, and I was horrified. So. And I have had this business since 2011.
Okay.
And so before I got into this, I've worked in a lot of different practice settings in pharmacy, but my last real job, as I put it, was as a manager at our local hospital. And one of my responsibilities was running our employee wellness program. And in that program, I did health coaching. I personally did the health coaching. And so completed a coaching certification, and I had planned to go start a business that was just coaching women in midlife, because that's a time when a lot of us are trying to figure out who the hell we are and what we're doing next. And I was square in the middle of it. So, but then I was like, you know what? It took me 6 years to get this pharmacy degree, and it's really stupid for me to walk away from that. And so I have a friend who's a compounding pharmacist in Durham, North Carolina. And so I went and spent the day with her. And she was doing hormone consultations and helping people get back on track, men and women. And by the time I left, I was like, that's the missing piece. I'm putting these things together. And Dr. Anna was born. So there you go. That's the quick and dirty.
Well, that's amazing, because before we even started this podcast, we were kind of joking around about my take on menopause for a long time, which I still believe, all of you, I still totally believe this, that a lot of us want to blame our weight gain, blame a lot of things on menopause when we actually have all these other things that we can control going on in our lives. And one of the things I've loved about working with you is, when we first started talking, like you've taken a really slow approach to giving me, like I haven't even started taking any kind of like supplements yet. But the first thing you said is like, it seems like you're really stressed out. When are you going to be able to cut back some of this stuff? Because we can't just throw pills at everything. And so we were talking about that before we came on. And I just really respect that, because I think that with you having a pharmacy background, it would be really easy. I mean, I'm sure it'd be really easy to try to fix a lot of things with pills, but only so much with our hormones can be, right?
Right. And so, the latest thing I did was get a functional medicine certification. And in that certification, we're looking for root causes of things. We're not trying to replace, a pill for a supplement, because I mean, basically you're just doing the same thing. You're just using something different. So, and this is my opinion. I think stress is the root cause of hormone imbalance for almost all women. And we have managed to talk ourselves into believing that the level of stress we experience is normal, but our bodies are not getting that message, and our bodies are much smarter than we are. And so at some point, your body just goes, well, fuck this shit. We're just going to revolt. And when you start taking care of us, we'll respond and we'll get back to normal. And so any symptoms that people experience really are just your body's cry for help. And you can pay attention or you cannot. And so a lot of women really, really get thrown off their game as they go through menopause. And a lot of them don't have anybody to talk to about it. And that's part of the problem. There's been so much shame and, hiding, behind menopause. And we need to talk about it, and we need more people talking about it than like Gwyneth Paltrow and Oprah. And, now all of a sudden it's a celebrity thing to talk about, which is great. But not all of those people have any sort of medical background to really kind of put all the pieces together and look at the research and come up with a plan.
Well, I love that you said the root cause, because that's how I teach the weight loss side of it. Is that, most of us don't need tons of macro counting and calorie counting and all this other stuff. You clean up the root cause, which is usually for most women, they are stress eaters.
Yeah.
It is like, it manifests there. And when you're in menopause and your body's already going under stuff and you're chronically stressed, I think one of the early signs for most of us that something is going on is our stress eating picks up.
Mm-hmm.
Now it feels like we're constantly craving sugar. We're constantly looking for an energy fix. We can't settle down at night without food. Like for a lot of my people, that's like they can't unwind at night because they're so used to pressure. The only way to shut it down is with food. So I loved how you said, like, your body will only take so much. And then it starts crying, uncle, it needs help. And an early smoke signal for all of you, especially people listening to my podcast, is overeating is usually the symptom of something going on the inside of your brain. I'm people pleasing. I'm saying yes to everyone. I have a ton of shoulds that I should be doing this. I should be a better mother. I should have a cleaner house. Every towel should be perfectly folded, like whatever that crap is. We put all this pressure on ourselves, and overeating is a huge indicator you've got a problem. So let's talk about hormonal changes that do happen to women as we start entering this midlife. What are the things that are happening to us?
So just for your listeners, perimenopause can start like as early as your mid 30s. And, most women just go, oh, I'm too young for that. And so the first thing that happens is your progesterone starts to fall, and it falls because you're not ovulating every month, unless you're Corinne and you can be 49 and ovulating.
We keep joking that my ovaries are still cranking it out. It's like, are you sure you don't want any more? Like, I'm sure
And so that lack of progesterone does a couple of things. First of all, it can cause new anxiety, and it can cause new insomnia and mood swings and fatigue. Those are some of the most common things. And then the other half of that is that estrogen is running the show in your body all month. And that's where the weight gain comes from, because estrogen's job in your body is to make tissues grow. So uterine lining, breast tissue, weight gain. And then when you gain weight, your fat cells make their own estrogen. So that just compounds the problem. And so the real issue is that estrogen to progesterone balance. Then you add in increasing rates of sluggish thyroid, because there's an epidemic of undiagnosed hypothyroidism in this country, and 80% of that's in women. Wow. And then you are more likely to become insulin resistant the older you get, which means that your cells don't take up glucose as well as they should for fuel, and your body has to crank out insulin, and that also is associated with weight gain. And then there's our friend cortisol, which just gets cranked out if you're chronically stressed. And so your insulin and your cortisol have to balance each other out. And so it's really a vicious cycle, and it's really hard to like pluck one thing out of that combination and say, oh, this is the thing. And this is why I like doing the testing that we did, because we can identify a lot of things there. And then I also do blood work that can look at thyroid and insulin levels. And an insulin level is much more likely to uncover unfolding insulin resistance before your blood sugar starts to get out of whack. So it's like hormone soup. But to me, the real underlying cause, yes, you'll stop ovulating, but if you're not chronically stressed, the likelihood is that your estrogen will start to fall in conjunction with your progesterone, and you won't have this just flood of estrogen every month.
So it just keeps coming back to, the one thing most of us, when we're in perimenopause and menopause, and correct me if I'm wrong, the one thing we've got some control over is our stress management, like really understanding like how we think about ourselves. Because the way that I approach stress management is like, you're never going to do the massaging and the baths and like all the traditional self-care. None of that can get done if the entire time you're thinking you're selfish,
Right.
You don't have time, that someone's suffering while you're taking care of yourself. Like, to me, the first level of stress management is getting your mind management on log, like really
Absolutely.
untangling that. Okay. So that is something we can start working on immediately, whether or not we can hire a doctor to look at us or not.
Well, right. And so many of us can't set boundaries around anything. You feel like you have to say yes to everything and everybody. And I'm like, I got over that a long time ago. And the older you get, the better you get at that. The disease to please kind of goes away, and you hit menopause and you have zero fucks left to give, basically. So it does get better.
This is the damn truth. I was telling somebody this the other day. I don't remember who I was talking to. It was like a younger person. I think it was, I was at my event, and one of my younger members, my members, they go from like literally 22 years old to, I think our oldest member right now is like in her mid 80s. Like, just
what a great combination though.
Oh, it really is. It's awesome to see, because they give, like, they're always giving each other advice and stuff. And I was talking to this young girl, and I said something about, well, wait till you're my age, because you just don't have any fucks to give. And she's like, what's going to happen to me? I'm in my 30s and I don't have fucks to give.
Well, then she's in good shape.
Yeah, I was just like, well, welcome to our club. You get early admittance. Well, tell them a little bit more about the test I did. Because you had mentioned the test. I took the Dutch test. It's like, I'm going to tell everyone there was a lot of peeing in cups, and there was a lot of putting cotton in your mouth. And I have to thank Chris Crabtree, because there was a lot of timing and you had to take notes, and I am not detail oriented. And so Chris literally was the manager of the whole process.
Well, and sometimes it takes that.
Yeah.
Or, you set your alarm on your phone, but we did the highest level of testing for you because you had told me in our initial conversation that your stress level was really high. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we got a really clear picture of what your cortisol was doing, because that was a really important thing I thought was going to come up. And as it turns out, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the Dutch test looks at your sex hormones, so your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone. It looks at the way your body handles those hormones and whether they're being eliminated effectively. Because if they're not, there are things that we can do to make sure that that is happening. And then we do the deep dive into your cortisol, and then some of your vitamin markers. So I started this business before the Dutch test actually existed. But I find it to, give just an amazing wealth of information that I can then take. I mean, it doesn't do thyroid specifically, but I can look at some cortisol things and go, you know what, we probably need to get some blood work to have a look at that. Um, but I can sit down with it and say, okay, we need to address this area and this area. And, one of the things about being a coach too is I can meet people where they are. Because some people want to go really slowly and they get overwhelmed very easily. And then other people are like, just give it all to me because I'm ready to go. So,
Yeah.
we talk about all that and the approach you want to take. And obviously we can't do it, but so fast because we do have to time it around your cycle if you're still having regular cycles. So, yeah, that's my go-to test, but I have a whole laundry list of things that can be added, like a gut health test, because that's a really important component of hormone health too. But you didn't tell me anything that made me think, oh, gut health. So
Yeah.
um, that's what that initial call is for, is just to kind of figure out, okay, what are going to be our best strategies to figure out what's going on with the unique person.
Yeah, and what I want to tell all of you is cuz I think sometimes there's a lot of shame for
Mhm.
women when they just can't do it on their own anymore.
Mhm.
And for me in particular, I'm really glad I don't have shame on that, but that's only because for years since I was a teenager, I've either been in therapy, I've seen psychiatrists, I have had meds in my lifetime for depression. I like talk about zero fucks to give. I gave all that away a long time ago because my most important thing that I can do for me is just try to have the best life I can. And if
Yep.
that means reaching out for help. But I will tell you, this last year, I've talked to you about it, but when I started feeling so run down, I had to pull apart why this year has been extraordinarily harder on me than other times, knowing I do get coaching. Like I talk to all of my listeners all the time. Like one of the benefits of joining our membership is you get access to life coaches who, like we're working on your weight, but we know that your weight is a symptom of what goes on in your life. And if we work on your life, weight will come along for the ride. I it didn't matter how much coaching I was getting. I could not get caught up anymore. I felt like my stress levels had just between my husband being diagnosed with cancer, buying a restaurant and remodeling it all year. We moved into a new house and like doing all the construction we do here. I had a lot of business stuff happen this year, things that, I have three businesses now. I used to only have one. Just you name it. My mother had surgery and lived here for 6 weeks. And God love my mother, but when you're taking care of someone who can't use an
Right.
arm, I'm not used to bathing a grown ass woman nor her dog. It's
And
just like,
especially not your mother.
yes, and like just there was so much that happened this year. I just couldn't, it's like it felt like there was not going to be any end in sight in terms of like, can I realistically outthink this problem now? And that's what I felt like when I called you. It's like, this is not just me outthinking my stress anymore. something's got to be going on. And so tell me if I'm right or wrong, but for a lot of our women, sometimes they need to take these extra steps, especially if they're battling the cortisol issue, because if it just feels like to me, it's like my body doesn't know how to turn it off anymore. Does that even make
Well,
sense? Or am I
which
just
no, but that is true. So what happens is your body will continue to respond and respond and respond to stress, and your cortisol levels will be high all the time. But then your adrenal glands are communicating with your brain, and it's a feedback loop. And so eventually your body is going to shut down that cortisol production because it's not supposed to be chronically high. And when you go in the other direction, then you can't get out of the bed. And so, pick your poison, put your life under a microscope and do some stuff about it, or figure you're going to end up on the couch because that's
yeah.
what's going to happen.
Well, and that's kind of where I was feeling like I was getting to. I didn't feel like I was going backwards in terms of depression,
Mhm.
but I've not felt this way in ages where there were just days where like I would go out for a walk. I walk every day. I talk to my best friend, and there would 3 out of 7 walks a week, I would tell her, I am so winded. Like this
Mhm.
walk's killing me. Like it's like everything in my body weighed more than it normally does. Like I felt like I was dragging something along behind me. And when I get to where I'm running out of steam to just function, like that's where I feel like I was getting to. Like I felt like my body was shutting down, but I couldn't. I also, for all of you, for me personally, it's almost like I felt like my brain was getting addicted to being stressed out. Like it needed that to keep going. And so I was getting caught up. Everything was a catastrophe. Everything seemed so much more magnified. Problems that I probably would have faced last year, this year seemed so much worse. Like it just felt like, I don't know. I've never run into this until this year. And so I'm assuming it's just the perfect storm of stressors, hormonal changes, all of it's coming together at a perfect head. And I think a lot of women go through this.
Well, and so like you told me the other day, you've ticked every box on the, list of ultimate stressors. And, we discovered that your cortisol production was low. So now, you've told me that you've gotten some of the work stuff done. You get to take a little break. We're going to do some things to support your body. You're going to up your protein. And we'll tweak it as we go along. But it's a process. I mean, you didn't get here in a couple of weeks. You got here over a long period of time. And it takes time to get back to the other side as well. And so that's why my preference is to work with people for 6 months, because then we have a chance to develop a relationship and really work on some things. But like I'm talking to somebody this afternoon who, unless she tells me something different, I don't think she needs 6 months. So I'll design, a program that is different than what I normally offer for people. But yeah, it's all just digging in and looking around, and what can you get rid of? What are your absolute yeses? Because everything can't be. And with the holidays coming, here we go. You get to be the Christmas fairy, and you and I were talking about your Christmas decorations that are already up outside your window back there.
That Corinne did not do. I just want everybody to
I
know.
know Corinne did not do.
I did bring someone in.
Corinne asked for help.
We were having Christmas over Thanksgiving, so everything had to go up a little early this year. And like my husband's definitely not going to do it, but we brought someone in to put things up so that we could all do it on Thanksgiving together. But well, let's talk about, you mentioned I'm going to be eating more protein, which I would bet my people are like, what? Because they know I've always talked about being a meatitarian.
Yeah.
I love it. But even me, y'all, I have gotten kind of low on my protein. And as much as I lift weights, one of the important things I told her was like I get worried that as I get older, I'm going to lose muscle mass, and which is common for women to lose muscle mass. We lose bone. We don't lift near enough. I lift a lot, but I watched, my mom is pretty weak, but I watched two grandmothers, who never lifted weights, one of which was a tough old bird. I mean, she probably could have been an MMA fighter if she wanted to be. And by the time she was in her late 60s, she had a hunchback. She wasn't strong anymore. I'd never seen my grandmother frail, and it was terrible to see a strong, independent woman like her switch to being frail. And then my other grandmother has a hump also, never lifted weights either. So I was telling Anna that it was really important to me. I want to be a strong woman all the way through my life. So
Do.
can you talk to us about, like, is there technically a best way to eat in midlife? Like, can we just kind of, because I know my people are like, can we just talk about the food now?
I'm not here to talk about food. So protein is important for the reasons you just mentioned, but it's also one of the foundational building blocks of healing adrenal health. And so you've got to have enough protein on board, and there's some other nutrients, and we've covered all those bases for you. But as your estrogen declines, your bone mass and your bone density starts to decline really, really rapidly.
Okay.
And fractures are the number one reason that women get admitted to nursing homes. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to the nursing home. So,
No, I'm not either. Well, if I end up, I want to go to a facility that someone will care for me
yes,
one day,
yes.
but I don't want it to be because I, slipped on something, like, cause I think that's one of my big fears. I've watched so many women that in my family, and even women in my own membership, who in their 60s and 70s, a small slip turns into a life altering event. My
Well, and
grandmother in Alabama right now has that problem. Like, she
well,
fell a year ago and she can't leave her house now.
well, and a lot of people that have like fractured hips die within a year of having that fracture. So that is something that is definitely preventable. And if you're a little skinny white woman, and you smoke, or you did smoke, or you've taken steroids for some other condition, you are at very high risk of having osteoporosis. And so what I tell people is go get your bone density scan when you're 50. So you've got a baseline of what your bone density looks like. If you have gone through early menopause, go earlier, because that bone density is going to decline like crazy. And so, I have an awful family history of breast cancer in the women in my family, but because I wasn't sleeping, and because I don't want to have osteoporosis, because I do have osteopenia, I made the decision to go on estrogen replacement, which helps both of those things. Weightlifting is definitely one of the best things that you can do. And you're on testosterone replacement, so that helps with bone strength and muscle mass. So you're killing two birds with one stone. So, a lot of women think going on hormone replacement is like giving in or giving up, because they think they should just be able to do this themselves. But why not protect that quality of life that you want, and give your body what it needs all throughout your lifespan? And that's a whole nother conversation about, should I be on estrogen replacement or should I not? Because there's a lot of fear around that. It's like, estrogen causes breast cancer. Well, no, it doesn't. So that, you and I could go on for days about that.
Tell them about fiber, because I can't remember exactly what you told me, but so when we were talking about me, definitely getting my protein up some, which
Mhm.
I'm down with. And then the other, you wanted me to get 25 to 30 grams of fiber. And, I eat vegetables every day, y'all, but I'm going to
Yep.
tell you, I was real honest with her. I was like, I doubt I'm even getting close. I mean,
Right.
and I feel like I would be a classical healthy eater. Like, if you were to if you just, I mean, like even this week, I'm eating stuffed poblano peppers with,
Mhm.
chicken and, like there's some quinoa in there. And then you take my lunch, which is a big ass salad. But I mean, other than that, I'm eating yogurt for breakfast. I'm like, there's just no way I'm getting plenty of, of
Right.
this stuff.
So the average American takes in like 18 to 20 grams of fiber a day if they're, doing a pretty good job. The fiber is more about keeping things running through your GI tract so that your estrogen is eliminated effectively, because estrogen is eliminated in bowel movements. So that's what the fiber is really all about, is making sure that your hormones are moving on through, because if they don't, they get recirculated and can become more toxic as they're recirculated.
So I think that was the part that I was fascinated by, that I just honestly didn't know, because I don't know a lot about this stuff, that like the more that you eliminate, like if you can like push things through, then
Mhm.
those hormones, like they get pushed through there. I don't know where I thought they went, but I did not realize it was going through the the
Yeah.
colon. But so let me just see if this is, you tell me if I'm right or wrong the way I'm hearing you. Like a lot of my clients are like I was, 100 pounds overweight, all the things. So if you have a lot of estrogen, because you have a lot of fat cells, and then you've got all this extra estrogen going on, if you will clean up a little bit of your food, like get more fiber in, like add some fiber rich stuff. I think you recommended that I get acacia. I'm going to be
Acacia.
adding, yeah, I'm adding that to my breakfast. Um, but that elimination will be getting some of a lot of that estrogen out. Like it should aid in your weight loss,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
you don't want that estrogen recirculating, because then it's just contributing to any issues with estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance means that your estrogen's higher than your progesterone. And we don't want that. And it also helps any toxins that you're exposed to. So pesticides that may be on your food or in your environment. Fiber helps keep that moving out too. So your liver is doing part of the detox, your GI system is doing part of the detox. So that's why I said gut health is so important, in the context of hormones, because there is an enzyme that can basically unpackage that estrogen that's supposed to be eliminated and let it recirculate. And that is if you have poor gut health. So there's so much to it, and it's just fascinating, and people are probably, their eyes may be glazing over now.
I think a lot of my people are going to find it fascinating. If you were to give them just a bottom line summary of what we've talked about,
Mhm.
what can they do for themselves at this point? Like, I think I'm in perimenopause or in menopause, or I know I am. And I mean, for lack of a better word, I feel like I can't get my shit together with my health, whether that's my weight, my energy, or whatever. Like, what would you say if you don't do anything, do these few things?
um Exercise, because that will improve your brain health, it improves your overall mood, it helps you maintain your muscle mass, it helps you maintain your bone health. I mean, I could go on all day about exercise, and it doesn't have to be like, I hate going to the gym, so I'm not going to do that. It can be like, go out and kayak, go out and take a walk, go out in the woods, because forest bathing is like great for your mood and you're walking at the same time. So it can be simple things like that. And then make sure that you're getting good quality sleep. So again, this is a whole nother podcast. So when you don't sleep, you put yourself at risk for all kinds of chronic illnesses. So especially deep sleep. And insomnia is one of the things that shows up in perimenopause. So that's when you need to start thinking about, okay, I may need to get some help with this. So I wear an Aura ring, and it
I do
tracks me.
too.
Yeah. The Aura ring twins.
Yes.
And it's really, it's been eye-opening for me to see how little deep sleep I got before I went on the estrogen patches, and then how much deep sleep I get now that I am on them. So it's made a big difference, because I'm a data girl. I like to see what I'm doing. What else? Make sure you clean up your gut. If you're having diarrhea, bloating, that kind of stuff, then your gut health is not clean. It needs help. And just don't suffer. I mean, there's help out there. And I know a lot of people think, oh, my doctor says he or she can't do anything for me. Well, that's because they aren't trained in how to do hormone management, and they're not trained in how to manage gut health. So be willing to look outside the box, because there are people out there that can help you. It could be a chiropractor, it could be somebody like me, it could be a naturopath. I mean, there's a whole world of alternative practitioners that can be super helpful.
Well, I love the simple things that you gave them, because like walking to me is
Mhm.
probably it's the one thing that I always do. This month inside of our membership, I just started walking with my members. I just said, "Hey, we're going to do a mile a day."
Mhm.
And, and I told them, I said, honestly, I don't even get a mile every day, but I get out. I'm getting out every day. I tell them, like, this does not have to be a perfectionism Olympics either. There are, like, tomorrow I've got I've already told them this morning, when I post every day about my daily reflection, and this was my walk. This is what I'm doing today. And just, I try to teach them something. And I was telling them that tomorrow I'm getting a cool peel on my face, because like I'm trying to like keep this face looking young as fast as I can. And it starts at 8 a.m. I was like, y'all, I'm going to be real honest. The walk won't happen tomorrow, but the leg lift will. It's like I had to make a choice. Am I lifting legs or am I walking tomorrow? And I just try to always tell them, like, I like to move every single day in some way. I do. Like, it is so good for my mental health.
Mhm.
It's now it's a habit, especially since I broke this habit of thinking like workouts have to happen a certain way. It's like, I do this because I want to be the kind of person who moves for the rest of their life. On the first day I started losing weight, that's what I said. I want to be someone who moves every day. And that meant walking, it could be lifting, it could mean a lot of different things. And then the other thing that you talked about that I wanted to tell everyone is I also have the Aura Ring. I find it fascinating. Deep sleep is the hardest one for me to get. And when I watch it, it's OURA for anybody who's interested. When I watch mine, on the nights that I don't get deep sleep, it's almost always because I ate dinner a little later than I normally do. There's always, like, there's some kind of factor at play. And what I want to say to all of you is, it's real easy for us to think, well, if I'm going to work on my hormones, then I'm going, like, I know what y'all are thinking. Then I can't have, then I don't get to, I won't be able to, I'll have to give up. We are not trying to tell y'all 1,001 things to give up, and you do not need to be a perfectionist on this. You've got to open your mind to the idea of there are lots of little things that you can control and you can try and you can do, get you some improvements. Because I promise you, if you start feeling a little better, you might be more willing to do a few things instead of thinking it's a big fat punishment.
Well, and
So,
what I tell people is, if they can just kind of stay at a 30,000-foot level and look at their body as a lab and just do some experiments with, let's see how I sleep if I don't drink alcohol for a couple of days, or let's see if I move my dinner time up by an hour, how does that affect how I feel the next day? And just be willing to be curious,
yeah.
um, because it doesn't have to be a slog.
No. And there's nothing like, I mean, you tell me, but I feel like there's nothing set in stone on all this either. There's lots of things to do and lots of things to try. And what will work for one person might not work for another. It really is. It's just like the way I teach weight loss. It was like, yeah, there's these 4 basics, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of nuances. And we're going to teach you all the nuances on the inside of the program. And we're going to keep playing with things until you feel like this works for your lifestyle. Like
Right.
this fits in with you. And when you start feeling better, you have your magic combination. And that's all
Well,
we're really looking for.
And I ask people, when I talk to them initially, do you have any lines in the sand that you're not willing to cross? Don't tell me that you're going to give up drinking wine if you're not going to, because
Right.
that's not helpful for you or me. So,
Exactly. Yeah, you were so good about asking me that. And now I'm one of those people that's like, I'll try anything. Like I literally, I have taught myself, I think because when I weighed 250, I thought I had a lot of lines in the sand.
mhm,
There was so much about my life I would have swore, like, I'll always eat this way. I'll need ice cream every night. Like, there were 1,000 things that I would have said back then are my non-negotiables.
mhm,
But as I felt better, as I started changing how I thought about myself, a lot of my lines started disappearing. I started really realizing I don't want any lines in the sand. I want to try a lot of things first. I want to figure out, like, the way I like to think about it is I don't draw a line in the sand until after I've tried something. If I've tried something and it didn't work or I really didn't like it, now I know. I don't
yeah,
like to be the person who predetermines their lines before they've even tried
right,
something,
right. But that's
So
where the curiosity comes in.
exactly.
I'm willing to just be curious about my body and what what makes a difference and what doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell them where they can find you because I'm sure they're be like, "Where's your magic doctor?"
So my website is Dr. Anna Garrett, 2 R's and 2 T's.com. And I have a quiz on there where you can have a little, it's like, I don't think it's 15 or 16 questions, and it'll sort of stratify you as to where you might be in the perimenopause process. And then you can also download the first chapter of my book for free. My book is called Perimenopause: The Savvy Sister's Guide to Hormone Harmony, and it's an easy read. It's written
Mhm.
for people that don't have a medical background, and it'll give you some great ideas about where you can start to help yourself.
All right. Well, there you go, everyone. Thank you for coming on and talking
Thanks
to
for
us about
having
all
me.
this stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Y'all have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.